Hello everyone and welcome to Games, Comics and Crafts.
In this series of videos, I'll be looking at the Judge Dredd case files in order and picking out the most prominent and important stories, as well as noting some artists and writers that actually appear in these books. Okay, so this is case files 20, and we are well into 90s Dread here. As I mentioned before in the previous case files, not my favourite era. 90s 2000 AD, it just, there was a lot of stuff that I wasn't interested in. So because the references were cultural references, and I had no interest in mainstream culture really, apart from I went metal. I didn't want Spice Girls. A lot of that stuff just went. This is like yeah, not worried about that. And obviously, Dreads does something similar as we saw in Volume 19. Um, this one again is there's not a lot of important stories in this one as such. Uh, First one we've got here is now we've actually got credits and contents listings, which is the first time we've done this. Why they didn't do this from day one, I don't know. We also get one for the magazine stuff at the back, so we actually know what is a magazine story and what is a 2000 AD story. Um, but yeah, so Roadkill starts off with just, again, that's not a bad story. Artwork's nice. If again, nothing else. Basically, they got a car that has got a computer brain in it, but it's actually based around the personality of a ex-convict, and this ex-convict decides to go and wants to kill everybody that wronged him in the past, and it just basically flies around and does stuff, and that's pretty cool. Um, Not too bad. And these poor old people are stuck in the back of this car for ages. Um, and then we've got Book of the Dead, which again, decent story. Don't Power artwork, which again, we're in that painty era, but this is much more detailed than kind of like the random stuff we saw kind of in Volume 19. So this is the first time I believe we see Egypt as a mega city power. Um, and yeah, it's not too bad. Basically, that they've got these lightning bolt kind of rods that kill people, and they've got these laws that basically allow to do random stuff, and it's a pretty compared to Mega City One, it's actually more barbaric than Mega City One, which makes it quite interesting. And we've got the guy here the guy in charge, and it turns out there's this mummy thing walking around, and this mummy thing is going to basically kill people, and they know about it. And Dredd's there to be sacrificed is basically what it is. So that's kind of the entire plot. Again, it's artwork's pretty decent. At least you can tell what stuff is. And yeah, all in all, not too bad. Interesting enough, purely for the sake of having the first view of this different type of mega city. Then we've got I Hate Christmas, um, which again, shockingly enough, is a Christmas story. As Square artwork, so you can't really argue with that. Um, and then we get probably the biggest story here, which is the Frankenstein division, which is basically about a SOV um, experiment that's made up of various parts of judges and stuff from that died in the SOV in the Mega Apocalypse War, and it goes to Mega City to try and kill Dredd. Um, and yeah, that's probably the best one. Again, square artwork looks really good. We started getting the colouring a little bit more as well. Kind of like more towards the standards we see on modern stuff, rather than kind of like the kind of the muddier stuff we saw earlier on. Um, and yeah, this is pretty decent. I mean, he just draw a bloody good Dread. Um, so that goes on for a little while. Then we get, what's this, crime prevention, which I cannot honestly remember, so it can't be that interesting. Again, artwork wise, yeah, not too bad. Sugar Bait is about sugar crimes. Again, Ron Smith artwork. I mean, this is really nicely coloured as well. Classic Ron Smith characters. Oh, that's right. It goes to Guatemala, I believe it is. Bolivia. Sorry. Um, and they are all useless, and you can basically buy yourself out of crime and all this kind of stuff. It's pretty decent. But yeah, that's not too bad. Where do we go from there? Again, Ron Smith's always one of the artists that it's the Judge Dredd strip from the Daily Star back in the day was always Ron Smith, I believe. Under Siege. I honestly can't remember this one. Again, so I only read this a couple of weeks ago, so it can't have been that massively important. Mandatory Candidate. Again, artwork's really, really nice. Oh, this is the one. So this is one where it's this guy's potentially Wally Squad, and he's set up to assassinate Magruder. And that kind of leaves some open plot lines that kind of a bit followed up later on. Because apparently I don't think he's actually Wally Squad in the end. Scales of Justice. Yeah, we've got yeah, John Higgins artwork, so very, very nice. And we're back to this group of judges or cadets that are outside in the cursed earth that got put out there in the necropolis, and basically follow this kind of weird guy cult thing going on. Now this is a weird one because this is the enemy below. So this is Clint Lanley, painted artwork. It comes obviously in this order that it's come through. This is a direct follow-on from the Inferno, because we've got the flooded isocubes here, and we also have Magruder in a coma from being chucked off the wall. So whether or not this was, it's very odd to have a flashback kind of in that respect. I reckon this was done and just got pushed back and back and back because it wasn't finished in time, and it eventually got released as it was completed, because it doesn't fit with the continuity of the other books, and it doesn't even really mention, like at the beginning of it, like it mentions the storyline, but it doesn't mention, like, 6 months ago or something like that. So this is a weird one because obviously we've seen Magruder trying to get assassinated, so she's obviously up and running in that part of it. So it's not done in the correct timeline that it should be done. This is definitely set directly after Magruder's injured and she comes around, and there's no really mention of that even in the kind of like the previous stories where Magruder pops up. It's like, oh, she's recovered and she's got bionic limbs or something. There's no mention. She's just there. So I don't know if this was just really weird in the way it was written. But yeah, bit of an odd one, this one. And then we get into the magazine, which we have here for the magazine credits. So Dreadful Life, again, must be Christmas, I would say, because we've got Judge Dredd basically being escorted through his various crimes and seeing what would happen if he didn't exist. And we see Caligula, Chief Judge Cal. We've got Anson dead. The Fink brothers, PJ Maybe. So yeah, it's all pretty interesting. And it's some of it's actually quite good. It turns out if Dredd's not there, it won't matter too much. Bloody lovely picture of Johnny Alpha. But it's all kind of like a hallucination, apparently brought on by these by these pies. So then we get to uh, Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee, which I think is actually the best story in this collection. It's a Megan story. Artwork's really, really nice again. Same guy who did the Justice 1 stuff. Um, Basically, this guy, his wife's died, and she's like was born pre atomic age and pre the judges, all this kind of stuff as well. And they're basically going to send her to recyc, and he can't afford to put her in a cemetery, so he buys some robots with the last remaining bits of his money, sneaks her into this cemetery, and basically snuggles her in with another person that is about to be buried. Dredd turns up and basically arrests him and catches him, and You know, it's like he's a poor man who can never afford a place like this. Is it's justice? And it's like, and Dredd actually apologizes. It's sorry, I'm just doing my duty. It's like this is something completely different. We're seeing Dredd like have a bit of a moral character, and I really like that rather than just kind of just the gag of, oh well, thanks citizen, you've saved everything, but you got 30 years in prison, because of this or the other, which quite a lot of these stories do. This Dredd is now kind of getting to the era where we saw with Kraken and all this kind of stuff, where he's actually got some kind of like he's not seeing everything's correct, and we obviously see that in Magruder last time. Um, anyway, so he's put in, and he gets to see his wife go into recyc, and Dredd stops the machines and basically puts him into says to the accounts department, right, no, we're paying for the cemetery, off you go. But then he does arrest the guy for doing the crime anyway. So it's like it's a really really cool story, really kind of bittersweet style stuff. But I really did like that one. Um, You Are Me Machine, yeah, it's all right. Artwork's okay. Again, magazine extreme magazine stuff, yeah, it's okay. Um, this one's pretty good about Leaper. The jumps off one of the buildings, and it turns out one of her sons is a killer, and he gets killed, and yeah, pretty interesting. We then get this one, which I cannot remember. Oh, the heat wave one. So yeah, this is the one about a heat wave, and it basically drives weather control goes down. There's a massive heat wave. Everyone starts going crazy. They start fighting over drinks and all this kind of stuff, and people are being cooked alive in elevators and all this kind of stuff. And then they have a face off with a gang, and they start passing out and all this kind of stuff. And then eventually they make it rain, and that's it, and they go away. Not too bad, pretty interesting. Um, this is Cadet Giant, Ian Gibson artwork, so pretty decent. And we get to see him do his thing about actually becoming a fully fledged judge. With Dredd obviously seeing him through. Uh, if it's Ian Gibson, it's got giant robots in it. This has got giant robots in it, so it's pretty cool. So yeah, so it goes through his little trials. We see we return of What the Robot, who's decided to become the next Call Me Kenneth, although not quite as effective. Um, but yeah, Dredd takes a shot, and it seems to be that he's going to be a judge, which I don't. I thought he'd see this is weird because he gets shot earlier on, and I thought he died, so obviously he didn't die. And then we get Howler, which again, it's I think it's McMahon artwork. Not my favourite artwork style, but basically about an alien that just shouts a lot and can destroy stuff with sonic powers of its voice. And Dredd turns up there, and he tried to kind of gets him to go away, and then he gets. It's all right. Again, if this had been the story in the magazine that month, I'd just skip straight by it. I wouldn't even bothered reading it because the artwork just does not appeal to me, I'm afraid. Um, it's just a little bit too stylized, and fair enough. There's experimental stuff going on, but again, this is why I wasn't a massive fan of 2000 AD in the 90s, because they kind of did this stuff. It's like instead of having like proper, I say proper, that's not the right word. Instead of having kind of like those kind of solid black and white artists like Bolland and Steve Dillon and all this kind of stuff, where everything was really beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Do get this kind of experimental stuff, which again, some of it works, some of it doesn't, and for me, this one just doesn't work. Um, but yeah, and it goes on for ages as well. But yeah, so that's it. So that's the end of volume 20. So yeah, all in all, mixed bag. Ironic to say, even with the kind of the idea of a story based around the return of a SOV experimentation, in my opinion, the best story is the very very short story about the old people in the cemetery. I just think that's a really cool story. And I remember that one from years ago. When even as soon as I said the title, I immediately remember what the story was about. And we're going back to like 94, 95, I think now. So it's already must have had an impact on me, all those years ago. So there you go. Anyway, that's enough rambling for now. So I'll be back soon with another Judge Dredd Case Files, and hopefully sooner than that with some more comic stuff. So thanks very much for listening, and I will see you on another video very, very soon. Bye bye.